So let's look at James chapter 3. So I think most of you have been over into the nursery wing and seen the bees and the bee theme. And so, of course, we have to take off on the bee something. Now, I know my mother-in-law has something wonderful planned tomorrow, and some other speakers, and talking about be this and be that. And I think from what I hear, their stuff is very positive. You know, be thankful, be loving. Okay, so my husband said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, be quiet. And he said, do you want to put like a positive spin on that, you know? And I said, probably not, but I will at the end, you know. And we were laughing. I was laughing. I don't know if he was laughing. He's probably still wherever he is right now thinking, oh, you know, she's just going to rip them ladies to shreds. But I'm not. But I am, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I thought, let me just be, you know, whatever, and we're going to be quiet, okay? And this is probably, when I was doing this lesson, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, if my kids hear this, they're going to be like, Mom, you should not be teaching that lesson. You should be sitting there listening to this lesson. So as I'm putting this together, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you know, I don't think I do any of these things, to be honest, you know, like not well anyway. But the Holy Spirit was convicting me at the same time saying, okay, we're just going to go for it. And this is what God gave me. So I'm not going to be mean, of course, but at the same time, I probably will wind up sounding mean. But anyway, let's look at James chapter 3. I'm hoping Stacy finds them soon. So if I get a little, you know, weird in what I say, I'm sorry. I'm trying. I have a lot of, you know, I know a lot of, I actually have the whole Bible memorized, but no, just kidding. Just for today, I'll pretend like I don't. I don't want to embarrass you ladies. Let's see, chapter 3, James chapter 3. My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word. Oh, what are these? Do you know? What level?
I don't know. You want to use mine?
Oh, these are mine. Okay, I was thinking they were yours. I thought you were bringing me yours. Do you have readers?
Of course.
Right, so that's why I thought you were handing me your readers. These are mine. Okay, these match, so I'll wear these a little bit. These are all from the dollar store, you know. I could buy $400 readers, I'll lose them. But these are from the dollar store. I have had these for 20 years. You know, it's just the way it goes. But anyway. All right, back to verse 2. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths, and that they may obey us. And we turn about their whole body. Those of you that have had horses or ridden horses, you know those bits. I had my first pony when I was 3. And I love horses. But you put that bit in your mouth and you give a little pull on the side and it hurts, you know. And when you have a really well-behaved horse, you can just use the kind that go around their nose and don't actually go in their mouth. That would be nice if we could do the same thing for ourselves. I always used to tell my children growing up, if, you know, you don't like to be corrected, you don't like to be disciplined, so learn to discipline yourself. And then someone doesn't have to discipline you. And the same way here talking about our mouths, if we learn to control our mouths, someone won't have to tell us to be quiet. How many of you, your husbands, have ever told you to be quiet? Yes, okay. That's worse than death. I'd rather have my toenails pulled out one at a time than when my husband says, be quiet. I'm like, ooh, it just sends me reeling. And then I have to practice the be quiet even more. But nobody likes that, especially not from your husband. I told my kids growing up, if you can't obey your parents, you'll never obey your husband because it's so much harder. He's your peer, you know, like it's, okay, I know I'm supposed to obey my mom and dad, but my husband, oof. Anyway, so that can be hard. I'll just be honest. But anyway, behold also the ships, which though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Verse 5, even so the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and is set on fire of hell. For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil full of deadly poison. Is that not the truth? Think back to this last week for yourself, okay? And again, I told you I wasn't going to be super nice. But if my husband asks, tell him that I was very nice. I will be nice at the end. But think back to this week. I can think back on my week. When was your tongue can no man tame? It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Just think back to your week. I hope you didn't, weren't all, always mean and nasty. But I don't think I go very long without saying something I shouldn't say. Thinking something I shouldn't say and then letting it come out my mouth. We're going to talk about thinking. That's part of stopping and being quiet. But we think things and then sometimes we let them come out of our mouths. And that's even worse. It's bad enough to think it. So I'm not suggesting, well, just think all these horrible things about people or things you want to say. As long as you don't open your mouth, it's okay. And sometimes I think that's true in a way. Like, ask God to help you. Keep it between you and God and let it go. But at the same time, when we open up our mouths, it's a whole new evil. So be quiet. Number one is, and stop complaining. Be quiet and stop complaining. Now, if you know me, let's look at Numbers chapter 11. Let's look at Numbers chapter 11, if you have your Bible. And if you're tired and need to slip out, nobody's going to hurt my feelings. It's only the second day. I was thankful I got today. First of all, you not get it over with. I enjoy speaking. But then I don't have to worry about it anymore. And then the second thing is, you're still a little bit, you just got here. By tomorrow, my mother-in-law will have to be tap dancing up here, and it will be interesting. Believe me, it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it because I've been learning some new things, and that's all I'm going to say, because I'm getting ready to run my mouth right now and tell you things you're not supposed to know yet. So I'm practicing being quiet. Numbers chapter 11, verses 1 through 4. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it. And his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the earth. Now, I'm so thankful we don't live in the Old Testament times, because I wouldn't have made it past 1 year old. Bzz, it would have zapped me right out, okay? That complaining. We just got back from a missions trip to Belize. Anybody been to Belize? Okay, so before I went, I'm like curious as to what's Belize, So I typed in Belize on the computer. Pictures of Belize. So, of course, that was the islands of Belize with the tiki huts and the resorts with the, pools and the fishing boats. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be, kind of nice going to Belize, So I'm like, okay, I'll bring my sunscreen, some sandals, a few cute dresses for on the beach. We were on mainland Belize, okay? And it was the poorest place I've been to. And I've been on many missions trips, been to many different countries, I should say. I've been on several missions trips. Think about poor and then bring it down a few notches, okay? So I know that you didn't go on the missions trip, and it's so hard to get people to feel the same thing you felt when you were there. You know how you come home from vacation and you tell people, oh, you should have seen, and they're like, oh, yeah, because they weren't there. It's just not the same. We've been to Israel many, many, many times, and the last time we went, we took our kids. Well, I told them all about it, and then they went. It's a whole different thing, okay? So I can't begin to explain to you and tell you what it was like. But many of the people lived in houses made out of tin sheets. Like you see, I don't know, we don't even see around here. Tin waffled sheets, you know what I'm talking about? No plumbing, no electricity. They only go to school through what they call Standard 6, which is like 7th grade. If they want to go to school after that, they have to pay. It's $500 a year. You're like, oh, $500 a year, that's not much. I mean, that's a couple weeks' pay or maybe a week's pay for my husband or whatever. Well, that's probably almost, I don't know, they make $2.50 American, so $1.25 an hour Belizean, okay? So you can feature. Most of them don't make it to high school. So there's a revolving cycle there anyway. So we had a lady there that was helping us every day. They cooked us meals. We were working out visiting for Vacation Bible Schools. We were building an educational building for them. And there was a lady there named Linda. And so we were there maybe about a day and a half. I was out visiting with the pastor's wife. And so she said, oh, yeah, Linda, she's such a sweet lady. We're brought up or something. So Linda had a son who has celiac disease, 6 years old, very bad celiac disease. Some people think they can't eat gluten, it makes me bloated. Okay, well, this kid had celiac disease, really bad. So it was COVID time, and they couldn't get him out of he had a bad attack. I'm not sure what happened, what he ate or what happened. He had a bad attack. They couldn't get him out of the country. All the borders were closed, and the health care in Belize is not tremendous, as you can imagine. They couldn't get him out of the country. So he died in the hospital or clinic by himself. They wouldn't allow her to come in, or her husband. She never saw him again. They gave her a picture of him, passed. That's how she knew that he died, because they wouldn't let her in there. 6 years old. He died in a room by himself. This lady is there every day just praising the Lord. She had a baby. She was pregnant. I think 2 days after her son died, she delivered her daughter. So she went through all this, okay? She's there every day. So I like dogs, okay? I like animals. So in Belize, you can't go there. It's bad, because the people have no food. So you can feature that the dogs have no food. And they try to care for them, but they can't, So they're all skinny and chained up to the house, and it's bad. So I was going around every day with cans of Vienna sausages that they sold in the little convenience store, and dog food, feeding the dogs, everywhere we went. But it became the joke. But anyway, when we were taking her home in the van down a dirt road, no paved roads. These are villages, and when they say villages, it's villages. It's not like, the village of, some of us live in places that have a village of whatever, and it's just a cute little town. This is a village. No paved roads, nothing. We were taking her home, and we stopped somewhere to visit someone on the way. I put some dog food out for a couple dogs that were there. She said to one of the girls, do you think she would have some food for my dog? Because this is a lady who comes to the church faithfully, who couldn't afford food for her dog, much less her children. So she's feeding, she was asking, and so I gave her, of course, the rest of the food and put some more, and gave her some when we left. I gave her a bag of dog food. But what did you complain about this morning? I was having a big conviction this morning. I was crying and listening to music about how good God's been to us, and thinking, and I know you weren't there, you don't know Linda, but Linda served us every day food. She served us food, and her and her family got to have lunch. It's probably a wonderful meal for them. What we were kind of like, when they cooked us chicken, they cooked the whole chicken. So some people got a neck, some people got feet, okay? And we're like, we're going to go in here and have lunch. They don't have chicken breast, and we were really doing something. And they're not asking for pity. She kept, we took her to her house, dropped her off, we walked by. When I say that she has no electricity, she has nothing. No indoor plumbing, no nothing, a shack. And she must have said over and over on our walk-in, look at how God has blessed us. Look at how we're so blessed. And I was like, oh, yes, you are. And I'm thinking in my head, really? That this is, and I thought, and I'm complaining. I don't know what I'm complaining about, but I'm complaining. We're complaining. And again, I know we live in America, and there is I can't feel bad that I have electricity this morning. That doesn't help her. The ladies in our adult Bible class, we're going to gather some money and maybe send them something for food, just to be a blessing. She's not a charity case, but a blessing. But I know that us living here, it's like, okay, I can't go get some tin and not have plumbing, and that's not going to help the people in Belize. But it helps my heart to see that. If you've never been on a missions trip and you have the opportunity to go, take yourself there. Now I keep pushing for Italy for our next missions trip, but I don't think that's going to happen. But, sometimes I said, how about Italy? How about the Bahamas? But I don't think that's going to happen. But at the same time, if you have the opportunity to go on a missions trip and see how some people live, we would just stop complaining. I thought when I came back, and I'm coming into, we live in the apartments right behind here. You can see them. You know, I have 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,100 square foot. It's not a palace. It's just a simple apartment. But I came in, and the air conditioning was on. And then I had to use the bathroom so I could flush the toilet afterwards. There, you put the paper in the basket and so forth and so on. So we could flush the toilet. I could take a shower with my mouth open instead of like this, you know, trying not to let the water get in. I could brush my teeth by turning the sink on instead of pouring water on a bottle. I could get in a car that had air conditioning. Their buses, you know how we get our public bus transportation? They're school buses with the windows down. And these people are thankful they had enough money to get on that bus to get where they needed to go. And we wouldn't even dream of it. Some of you, some of us, we wouldn't stoop that low. Oh, I'm not riding on a bus. I'm not a school bus. Where's the air conditioning? We complain. And when I say we, I mean we. We complain. And shame on us, really. We're going to complain today about something. Oh, we have to have chicken again? I had chicken last night. Oh, I've heard myself say, I would do steak, but we had steak yesterday. You ever heard yourself say something like that? We have to go out again? I haven't had a home-cooked meal in a while. I mean, just listen to ourselves. Shame on us. So number 1 would be quiet and stop complaining. Oh, well, my husband said I had till 12:30. I said, I'll be done way before that. I'm only on point 1 and it's 12 o'clock. So I have to speed it up. All right, because he'll be checking on me soon, saying, are you almost done? What's going on in there? All right, number 2, stop gossiping. Ooh, stop gossiping. Oh, I don't gossip. I only tell people if it's true. Even if it's true, it's still gossip. I would never say anything unless I know for a fact it's true. It's still gossip. Put yourself on the other end. Ever had anything you wouldn't want people to know about that happened in your family? Ever have anything with your children, your husband, your parents, and you would die if word got spread around, if people were talking about you? You would die. You would be so embarrassed. Right? We all have. Everybody has family situations. Everybody has drama. And we want to keep it close. We want to just, on a need-to-know basis, you know, if it's a need-to-know. So we want it that way for ourselves, but we're so quick to share what we know. Who likes a juicy tidbit? Me. I always say, Melinda. Like when we were talking about the summit, I'm like, Melinda. Because she works here at the church, and I'm like, let me know if you hear anything about, you know, what such and such, what Dad's plans are, you know. Because I'm like, give me the deets, you know. I'm always texting her. I know you got the deets. She's like, Mom, I don't know nothing. I'm like, well, I need to know, you know. We all like that juicy, you know, not the scandalous stuff. I just mean like who's preaching and when, you know. My husband likes to keep everything under the cuff, you know. And I'm like, trying to listen to his phone calls and so forth. But we don't need to be gossiping. And we all do. We share our opinions about someone, she's ridiculous about that, you know. Oh, I would never. I mean, that's what she says, but I would never. You know, I just want to share with you, this is the best one. I just want to share with you so you can pray. Probably not going to be prayed over, but probably going to be shared with quite a few people who can pray as well. Now, I'm not mocking prayer. If I have something that's a burden on my heart and I ask someone to pray for me, about me, that's no problem. I'm not mocking. We should pray for each other. We had someone text this morning, my husband and I, they texted yesterday, asking prayer for their family. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but it was their family. They didn't text me and say, such and such and her husband are having marital problems. Could you pray for them? Now, my husband is the pastor, so sometimes he knows things. But can I tell you this right now? I only know, I'm on a need-to-know basis when it comes to things that people take to my husband. If I don't need to know, I don't know. It's so funny. People say to me, "Thank you, Miss J. For that, I know that we've been meeting with your husband," and I'll say, "Okay." And she's like, I know you understand." And I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't really know anything about what you're talking about." And they're like, "Oh." And I said, "Not that my husband and I keep secrets, but there's nothing. If I don't need to know, I don't want to make a judgment about ladies in the church that I don't need to make. I don't want to make a judgment about men in the church or people that are having problems. Now, if I need to be a part, I don't mind, and I'm glad to help. But don't expect, maybe if your husband's the pastor, that you have to know everything. Sometimes my husband's protecting me for things that I don't need to know, and it's better if I don't. And sometimes it's just not my business. So don't try to be that nosy Nelly. My kids, they just drive me crazy because, I have social media, and we sell Bernedoodles. So I have a page like my normal Jennifer Clark page. I'm hardly ever on there, so hopefully nobody's messaged me. I check that every once in a while because I'm always trying to sell dogs instead, so I'm always on my dog page. But when I get on there and I'll say to somebody, I'll say, "Melinda, did such and such, they got engaged?" She's like, "Mom, you're like up in everybody's business." I'm like, they put it on social media. Like, to me, if they put it on social media, they want you to know. So me asking is not nosy. Like, it's like if I put up there, "I have dogs for sale," and someone says, "Does she sell dogs?" I would want someone to say, "Yes, she does. See, it's right here." So when somebody puts up, "Hubby and I went away to California," I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Who do they know in California?" And they're like, "Mom, you're all up in her business." And I'm like, "She said she was going to California. Like, what is," okay? So that's not necessarily being gossipy, okay? But are we up in everybody's business? "Oh, I had no idea they were having problems. Oh, I had no idea. Did you know such and such? Did you know Pastor such and such had to leave his church?" We've had a lot of that lately, unfortunately. Pastor such and such had to leave his church. He's out of the ministry. Oh, do you find some sort of satisfaction in being able to share that with someone? It's so easy to see and be happy. It's hard to be, I always find this is true, and maybe this is just me, but it's easier to be sad with someone than it is to be happy with someone. "Oh, she got a new car. She's been wanting a new car. Oh, that is so wonderful." We're thinking, "I have never had a new car. It's been 35 years, and I've never had a brand new car." And that's what we're thinking. But if someone says, "I'm so sad." Oh, this is me when people put up about their dog passing. Oh, I'm like sending them books, and my heart goes out to you, and all these things. It's easy for me to be sad, but we have that jealousy thing going. I can't possibly be happy for her. God's blessing her. He's not blessing me. That goes back to point number one. How are we blessed? I sat there this morning in my apartment, and again, it's a simple apartment. It's not fancy. It's great. I love it. It serves its purpose for sure and above, and I'm very thankful for it. But it's just simple. But I sat there this morning looking at things. Like, I was like, "Look at that. I turned on the lights." I mean, that sounds so silly. I turned on the lights, they came on. And again, I know because you didn't travel, I don't expect you to feel the same things, but, I flushed the toilet, and it went down, instead of sitting there with paper, and then you're like, because this isn't working like it's supposed to, because this is a third world country, and so forth and so on. That goes back to, are we just focusing on us? Don't mind everybody else's business. Now, I know the Bible says, "Bear ye one another's burdens." And again, if I go to you and I say, "Would you pray for me for this?" That's different than, "Would you pray for her? I heard that her and her husband." That's gossip. You're not really probably wanting to pray. And if you are, then go to the person who's having the problem and ask her if she's comfortable with you sharing. Most likely she's going to say, "No, I'm really not comfortable." We wouldn't check with someone. "Oh, do you mind if I share with a few people that you're having marriage problems?" Most people are going to say, "Yeah, no, I mind." Okay? We would never ask, but we'll feel free to share. That's when it turns into gossip. Does that make sense? Put yourself through that litmus test. Okay, would I go to the person right now and say, "Are you comfortable with me sharing your business?" And if they say, yes, okay. But if we think, oh, I would never ask her, she would die, then you know you shouldn't be repeating it. Because that's an infringement on this person's privacy, their feelings, their emotions. And again, sometimes there's things, responsibilities with with pastors, things that have to be discussed. But as a rule, we try to keep that to ourselves. Number 3, and I'm moving right along. Number 3, stop judging. Now, I know, it's like in the contemporary, it's don't judge me, it's up to God, don't judge me. And then we have the other direction who it's like judge everybody. We're just going to make judgments, based on no fact. So stop judging. We judge ourselves, and I've always heard this phrase, and I wanted to look into it a little more, but we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behavior, right? We judge ourselves by our intentions. Oh, I didn't intend to hurt her feelings. I didn't intend, but we judge others by their behavior. They must have meant it. They must have intended to hurt my feelings. Have you ever, ever had someone where you think, they're not speaking to me, they must be mad at me? We judge people by their behaviors, but we want to judge ourselves, and we want people to judge us by our intentions. Here's the thing that I do. We're just going to put it all out here. This is what I do. If I offend someone will say to me, those words were hurtful. And I'll say, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't intend them that way. I didn't mean for them to hurt you. That's what I say. That's how I say I'm sorry. That's not really being sorry. What I'm sorry for is that you were offended, but I'm not really sorry that what I said. So I have to turn it around and say, I'm sorry that my words were hurtful to you. There's the difference. Because I want the person who I said something to judge me by my intentions. I know she didn't intend to hurt me. It was just a mistake. Whatever she said, I didn't know was going to hurt me. No, my behavior offended this person. So I need to own up to it. Okay? And that's a hard thing. Is Heather in here? Heather Gibson? No. Anyway, she's probably helping. Oh, she's helping in the kitchen. Yeah. We always used to joke in class. She goes over to Liberty Baptist in Philly now, but she was in my adult Bible class, and we would joke because neither one of us can take constructive criticism. To me, that's a word like none other. What is constructive criticism? Like, you just hate me. You just don't want to talk to me. You're just mean. You always have to say something about me. That's how constructive criticism comes to me. My husband and I were having a talk the other day, and he said something about, I think he said, we're out of water again, maybe, okay? So I'm like, okay. So he said, we're out of water again, those words. What I heard was, you are an awful wife who can never keep things together. Right? I told him, I said, okay, so finally I thought, I'm going to explain this to him. So I said, I'm going to do a little wife translation here, hon. I said, you said, we are out of water again. Right? He said, that's what I said. Because he couldn't figure out why I was, pouting around the house and such. So he said to me, what is your problem, And I said, you said, we're out of water again. He said, well, we're out of water again. And I said, and I heard, you're an awful wife who just can't keep things together. And he's looking at me. And it was funny because almost the light went on in his head. Like, huh. I said, that's how I heard it. I said, if you say, we need to get this fixed. This has been a mess for so long. Well, I'm hearing, you're a failure. I should have married somebody else who was more organized. But we laugh because that's true. But in the moment, it throws us reeling, okay? And so I'm judging him by my level. I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I have to judge by his intentions. He said, all I was saying, hon, was we're out of water again. And I said, and all you were saying was... But it was actually, you ever have a conversation where you actually feel like you make some, headway, like, poof, We pushed through that one, you know. We actually, after being married 35 years almost, it'll be 35 in October, you know, we've learned to figure those kind of things out. And he knows. He's like, I'm walking on eggshells, you know. And I'm like, it's not that bad, but it is. And so I think we got to toughen up a little bit. And we need to I need to judge my husband by his, whenever I start to feel that way, I think to myself, does he love me? I know he does. Does he provide for me? I know he does. Does he care about my needs? I know he does. Is he maybe stressed right now, or is he busy right now and doesn't have time to say, please, honey, you're the greatest wife in the world. You always provide all the things we need. Unfortunately, today, we just happen to be out of water. Would you like me to take care of that? That's what I would love. I mean, how many of you would love that, you know? Oh, my goodness. We need like a translator, you know? Like, I say, I'm sorry, and he hears, no problem, I'll get more water. But when he says, you know, we need somebody that, have you ever watched those memes? And they do that. Like the woman's opening up her mouth and the guy's open up his mouth and he's saying, honey, I love you so much. Every day you look so beautiful. Just unfortunately today, I don't like your hair that way. Instead of, are you going to do your hair that way every day? And then all of a sudden you're like, you know, like what I heard was you're ugly. You've never been beautiful. You never will be. Okay. And that's, okay, so I need to learn, and I know we're not all married in here, but this can work with friends as well. I need to think to myself, I'm throwing him under the bus. I'm not even giving him the benefit of the doubt. I know he loves me. I know he's a man, and he's not going to say things the way I'm going to say it. Okay, now I'm not talking about someone being rude to you. I'm not talking about someone saying, woman, you know, bring me my sandwich. You know, I'm not talking about that. You know, I'm not talking about, you know, I hate you, you know, I'm not talking about those things. I'm just talking about that general day-to-day where I wish every day my husband would wake up and say, good morning, sweetheart, you're so lovely. I'm not lovely in the morning. I'm not lovely in the middle of the day, but the morning is not good. You're so lovely. You always provide so well. You always take care of our home so well. Here's an illustration. I was telling my girls this the other day. We came home from Belize, you know. So again, we've been in this, you know, dirty kind of, not dirty, I shouldn't say that because I don't mean that to be insulting to the people, but the ground was very dirty, sandals, dusty, you know, come home to so I had texted my daughter, Christiana, and I said, do you mind going over on Friday and just like turning the air on and making sure it doesn't stink? You know how you leave your house closed up for a week and it doesn't matter what you do, it still smells when you get home. And we have puppies through there all the time, so I got to keep a hold on that one. So I said, and you know, turn the air on, whatever. She said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we get home, we come in the door, and it was so fresh and cool and all. And I said to my husband, I said, Christiana, I didn't tell him I asked her because I didn't want to take away from, you know, that she had done something kind. I said, Christiana came through and cleaned up, you know, and he said, yeah. He said, my goodness, he's like, it's immaculate in here. And I'm like, oh, we just got home. I can't have a fight already. But what I heard was, wow, Christiana's a good cleaner. You could take a few tips. Now, he didn't say that, of course, but that's what my mind translated it into. You can't clean like Christiana can clean, you know? And I said, well, it wasn't bad before we I had to, you know? It wasn't bad before we left, you know? And he said, it's like, we left in a hurry or something, you know, whatever. And all I heard was, you know, maybe we should move Christiana in here so she can clean the house, you know. That's what I was thinking I wanted to say. Instead of giving, you know, and then I said to him, yeah, she did a great job. And I was like, you know, this is ridiculous. But in my head, I was judging. He didn't mean anything by it, except he wanted to say, great job, Christiana. So nice to come home to a clean house. But I had stayed up. We never went to bed that night because we left it for the airport at 2 a.m, so with the whole group, so we never went to bed. So I had made sure the dishes were washed. But he didn't say to me, hon, as we leave, this looks great. I'm so glad when we come back, it'll be nice and clean. I was waiting for that. I'm still waiting for that. I'll be 97. No, but so in my head, I was judging. So I know that these are like silly illustrations, but we judge people I'm assuming she meant something mean by what she said. I'm assuming she had the wrong intentions. when maybe it was just to be helpful, just to be kind. Sometimes it's hard for us to take constructive criticism. It's always hard for me. I don't think I'm always right. I just have a hard time somebody telling me that I'm wrong. It's not even that I think I'm right. I just don't want to be wrong. And I think we all, to a certain degree, don't like to be wrong. We want to think we have it together, but none of us do. None of us have it all together. So anyway, try not to judge people try to judge people by their intentions and not what you foresee. Get out that translator, I guarantee you, before you get to the hotel today, your husband's going to say something that you're going to, where are the kids, Bose? Did you do her hair this morning? That my husband used to have a thing about, all the girls, they need to have their hair, when we went places, their hair done, the little socks on, And so if he said to me, her hair's a mess, whew, I'm hearing, if I had married a different woman, that her children, their hair always looks nice. So that's going to happen to you today. You're going to go, you're going to get in the car and he's going to say, is that what you're wearing tonight? And maybe that's because he's hoping you're going to wear that tonight, but maybe it's because he's thinking, and you're going to be like, why? What's wrong with what I knew you didn't, I knew you didn't like me. I know. And then off we go. So be careful. And those of you that have friends and you're not married maybe yet, be careful of judging. You're not going to have friends if you judge every word that comes out of their mouth by their behavior rather than, by their intentions. Ask yourself, does this person love me? Do they truly care about me? Then I bet they have my best interest in mind. It's so hard to do that, but it is true. Okay, and then number 4, stop giving in to vain imaginations. How many of us have given into imaginations? Oh, we feature how it could go, how things might be. We don't put ourselves and our minds under God's control. We allow things to go all over the place. And I don't just mean, inappropriate things or anything like that. I'm just talking about life in general. I constantly am one of these people who imagines if I can't get a hold of my children after 30 seconds, the worst has happened, Vain imaginations, that's not controlled by God. God is in control. We're not supposed to worry. So stop giving in to imaginations and things that we write. In our imagination, we often rewrite things our own way. When we give into vain imaginations, we neglect to bring into captivity our thoughts, bringing them into captivity, allowing God to be in control. We rewrite who God is and what he is like. When we give into our own imaginations, we rewrite who God is and what he is like. We know who God is. He's in control. He loves us. We rewrite what we need and what we expect into what we deserve. That's a big one. We don't deserve anything. I don't deserve to live in this country that I live in. I don't deserve to have the family that I have. I don't deserve to have the home that I have, the children that I have. And when we focus on what we do, what we have, and what God has blessed us with, you could make a list. Start out this morning. You'd still be writing tonight, and then you could write for the next 20 years of all the things that God has blessed us with and what we do and don't deserve. We don't deserve anything. We rewrite relationships, how we relate to each other, and how we relate to God. We rewrite priorities. We make big things little and little things big. Okay, how many here are guilty of that? Yeah. We make big things little and little things big. I'm the little things big. I try so hard. My husband is a type A, okay? And I'm like the type Z, doesn't matter, it's all gonna work out, it'll be fine. But when there's certain things come up, I allow those little things to become big things. We all do that, even if that's not our natural personality. My kids would come in from school and they'd have a detention for, let's say, they forgot their book. So I'd say, you shouldn't forget your book. Get yourself together, get organized, and remember your books. The end. But they had to tell my husband every time they got a detention. So that was not the end. That was just the beginning. And, it's like, how could, what is it that, did you know you had a test? Did you know, was there a reason? He was digging deep. I'm not saying he was making little things big, but he was intent on making sure that they did what they're supposed to and so forth and so on. And I was the opposite, trying to hide, just trying to not see things. But I allowed it through the years, my imaginations to take little things and make them big. And create a circumstance that doesn't need to be created. And that kind of goes back into the whole gossiping and complaining. I'm offended. Stop being offended. That's a good one. It's easy to be offended, but stop being offended. I mean, it doesn't mean people can walk all over you and say anything they want to, but stop being offended about everything. Oh, she offended me. Oh, he hurt my feelings. Oh, I can't. That was so rude. I can't. I just won't be able to. I won't be able to function anymore. I've been offended. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a doormat. It doesn't mean that I can come up to you and speak to you however I'd like to, or someone can speak to you however they'd like to. But we are so easily offended. And sometimes, again, it goes back to, it's because we're judging someone what they said based on what we assume they meant by what they said. I'm not good at confrontation. I'm like non-confrontational. I'd rather just walk the opposite direction and avoid someone if there's a problem. But saying to someone, what did you mean by what you said? Could you explain to me? Help me. I had a lady years ago. I mean, I was probably married 5 years, and I was young. We got married at 19. I was the youth pastor's wife the next week. Some of my friends were still in high school, calling me Miss J, because I was now the youth pastor's wife. It was difficult. I came to a new church. I had gone to Open Door my whole life, of course. My dad was the pastor. Now I was at a new church. And I had a lady say, could I speak to you? And I said, sure. So she took me in the office, and she proceeded to tell me all the things that I needed to fix about myself if I was going to be the youth pastor's wife there. And you know what? It was very, very difficult. You think that you're something, and you're putting on airs, and you talk above everybody else, and whatever, and all these things. And I had two ways to respond to that. Be offended, or be honest with myself, and see if there was anything that she was saying that I could work on, that I could adjust. And when she said, I said, you know what, thank you. I said, sometimes we don't see things about ourselves, and I appreciate that. I'm going to pray about it, and I am going to ask the Lord to help me. Now, that was miraculous, because that wasn't what I wanted to say, of course. It really wasn't at all. But, we have to get to the point where we're willing to take some correction, something in judging, and let those vain imaginations come down. This is not as big a situation as I planned. Every time I get in a plane, I don't like to fly, but I've gotten over my fear of it pretty much, but I still don't like it. So every time I get in the plane, I imagine myself going, and we just came back from Belize. We're leaving for California on Monday. I've already anticipated that I'm in North Carolina the next day, and I'm already anticipating, they're planning on who's going to be on my plane and whose time it was to go, because then it's going to be my time now. I'm hoping they don't show up, all those things. But, I get on there with those imaginations. I used to. I really have given it to the Lord, and I don't really have a problem with it anymore as much, but I used to get on there. Every time I heard a creak, every time you hear the beep, beep, and the flight attendant picks up the phone, I'm sure they're telling him the plane's going down, just act normal every time, But those are vain imaginations. That's not changing anything. I told the Lord, I'll worry when it's necessary, but I'm not going to worry ahead of time for something that I don't even know is going to happen. Leave those things go. And then, so just at the end, because he told me 12:30, and I do see some men out there, and it's 12:26. So instead of be running, stop complaining, all those things, be quiet and let God do the speaking. Be quiet, be still. In our old house that we lived in Kirkwood, when my husband was away on a preaching trip, I redid their bedroom, and I had someone paint a mural on my wall, and it said, be still and know that I am God, and it was the ocean, and my husband's favorite place to go. And be still. Let God do the speaking. Let God do the talking. Don't always try to defend yourself. Let God speak to you, and let him speak to others. Give it to God. You don't have to have the last word. Again, that's another one of my big, my husband will say this, and then I'll say this. And then he'll say something, then I'll, real quick. And then he'll say, you know, you always have to have the last word. I said, well, you just had the last word, so now I got to say something. But that's true. You have to have the last word. Let it go to God. Give it to God. Give him your situations. Give him. If you got to talk to God, you got to talk to somebody about somebody, talk to God. He'll keep it a secret. If you know something about someone, give it to God and not to your friend or somebody else that you can share with. So I just wanted to encourage you, pray before you speak. If every time we went to say something to someone, we prayed first, we probably would do a lot less talking, a lot more listening. Pray before you say something. You know, I really have to handle this situation, but first I'm going to pray and ask the Lord to help me with that. Or pray and ask God, would this be something I would say if you were standing here? If God were standing here, would I say that to her? And then just go with God. Let him direct you. Let him guide you. So I know there was a little bit of positive there at the end, right? So that's the last thing you remember was the positive, right? When my husband asks, was it positive, hon? I'm going to say yes. Positively dreadful. No, just kidding. But anyway, please, let's all work on that, myself so much included. But I think just stop complaining. Stop arguing. Stop judging. Just listen. Let God speak to us and through us.